Hey everyone, welcome back to the Beyond Business podcast. We're really excited about the guest we have today because we dragged our podcast producer, Jared, in front of the camera to talk about his experience with photography and videography, or as he refers to it, storytelling. Along the way, he brags about his high school golf game that we have yet to see evidence for, but that's okay. And we also talk a little bit about Bill Nye's video editing skills back in the day. But most importantly, and the reason you're here, is for the value along the way. Jared does an amazing job giving you value whether you have yet to jump in this world of storytelling or you've been doing it and need to kind of take it to the next level. So all that to say, really excited for you to listen today or watch whatever platform you're on and get these pieces of advice from Jared. And for any of those who are listening to this, we're recording this at the end. So in hindsight, this mysterious actor we talk about from Game of Thrones is Jason Momoa. So there you go. Excited for you to listen. Well, Jared, thank you so much for joining us today. We are excited to get you in front of the camera and kind of break down your world and all the things that you do so well that we do not. So for all our listeners out there, would love a little background about yourself and how you got into the photography and videography world. And then we'll probably, I'm sure, dissect and go many different directions from there.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It feels pretty weird to be on this side. It's definitely not the space that I'm comfortable on, but I am excited for today and whatever we can talk about. A little bit about me. I'm here at Beyond Blue. I do our video and photography and pretty much all content creation of sorts. This is kind of like the chance for me to brag on myself a little bit, isn't it?
I love it.
So originally from Albuquerque, New Mexico, came up here for college, but back in Albuquerque, I was a four-time state champion in golf, just so everybody knows.
Oh,
I
still haven't seen it.
You still haven't seen it.
No, I've yet to play with them, so we'll see.
Exactly.
We'll see.
Every time I try to play with you guys, you kind of back out though. So
I'm busy.
I don't know if that's my fault.
Puffs are broken out.
Did I see you out practicing, Justin? I thought you were busy today. No, it wasn't me.
So what else can I brag about? Had a 4.6 GPA in high school. So, you know, but that just leads me to say that I came to CSU up in Colorado to pursue engineering actually, and was going for a biomedical and mechanical engineering degree, and actually was like pretty excited about it. And everybody kind of told me in high school that I was really good at math and really good at science and whatnot. So I was like, they were like, yeah, you should do engineering. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. And went through the course and actually enjoyed it, was doing pretty well with it, but had a lot of opportunities for photography and video and really enjoyed that. So saw a lot of doors open there and was really excited for that. So I was like, I think this is the way that I need to go with this because I was just really enjoying it. So decided to do that, dropped the engineering, went for a business marketing degree instead. But should I tell everybody how old I am? So I'm currently still in school, if that gives you a hint at how old I am. Still finishing up my senior year of college. But going back, I actually want to go back to how I got into photo and video. It's a funny story, actually. I had an ex-girlfriend that had a really nice camera. And because her parents were a little bit too rich and spoiled her too much, and she had this really nice camera that she didn't even know how to use. And so I decided to grab that camera and start taking pictures with it and fell in love with it, right? When you start with a piece of equipment that is really nice and does more than you can really understand, you start to like really fall in love. And coming from that kind of nerdy background, I was like, I love this technology and I love like figuring out how to use this and how to work with it and use different pieces of equipment and technology. So eventually broke up with that girlfriend, lost the camera, bought my own camera.
You didn't just think to steal it, like kind of a consolation price?
I should have.
There was no prenup to sign. This camera's mine.
Considering what she did to me, I should have. I'm just kidding.
All right.
No, it was a good.
We'll do that on a relationship podcast.
Just kidding. It was a clean break. So it'd be funny if she's one day listening to this, but probably not.
Yeah.
But
one of 3 listeners.
Tens and tens of listeners.
So yeah, then had to stoop down to a much lower level of a more entry level camera, but I found that to be even more fun because you had to really test yourself and your creativity and see what you can do with a cheaper piece of equipment, and which I would suggest for anybody to hop into. But yeah, then once I got to college, slowly started taking pictures, started taking senior photos and a few weddings here and there. And then was super fortunate to meet people like Justin and Hunter and, get to work with Beyond Blue and with the many awesome clients that we have to work with.
Yeah.
Awesome. See, I'm learning new things about you. So bring on the details. Yeah. Obviously want to dissect this and dive into a larger conversation between photo and video. I don't think it's any surprise to anyone out there that this is the direction the world is already moving and is at, especially video content. We're always harping on that and pushing our clients to go that direction because it's just the way of things are now and the way of the future. And so I want to dive into a little bit of your insight into why businesses, if they're not already or have been, why they should continue or start to invest in videography and photography services, whether it's outside their business or bringing it in a house, because of whatever value that can bring them, not just short term but long term.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think sometimes it's hard to like distinguish. You'll say like videography, photography, but a lot of the times I'll say storytelling, right?
There you go. I'll use that.
So, but storytelling can look a lot of different ways, right? It doesn't have to just look like photography and videography. It could look like copy. It could look like whatever else it wants to look like, but it's goes much beyond photography and videography. But I truly believe that the best way to tell a story is through photo and video, more specifically videography. So I think a lot of the times you might hear me talk about storytelling within this podcast, but kind of referring back to what you're talking about of photography and videography. But so when you ask for the importance of photography and videography, I say, what's the importance of storytelling, right? And I think it's super important for businesses right now to be doing storytelling, right? Because traditional marketing and marketing of the old is not quite working the same that it used to, because people have a lot of distrust in companies, especially big corporations. And so within storytelling, you're able to come in and say, okay, I want you to spend this money with my company. I want you to put down some serious money, whatever product you're trying to get them to buy. But if you're able to tell a story, you're able to like drop those defenses. You're able to make them trust you, to make them say, oh, like that person is telling that story of this company. So I can resonate with them. I can connect with that. I can put myself in their shoes and really engage with that brand. So like, I think maybe we can talk a little bit more about what storytelling looks like within a business, and because it can look very different. Like a lot of people will use the example of finding a client that has had a really good experience with the brand and tell their testimony of that experience, right? Which is great and awesome, and I would love that. And I think every website that we're building nowadays, it feels like we're putting a few of those up there because it works, and it's awesome to see people that have experienced the brand and like it and have really good stories through that. There's a bunch of different ways to tell stories, though. I think like when I think of a small business, I think one of the best stories that a small business can tell is the story of how their business started and how that owner has grown their business into whatever it is, whether it be 100 employees or just 2. People love to hear that story and just love to see that there's a person behind that brand and behind that business. I think, are we able to mention some of the names of our clients? Or
I mean, yes.
I'm game.
It's free marketing for that.
I think of Panino's, which is a local restaurant here in Fort Collins. I think of some of the videos, the best videos that I've seen from them haven't even been shot by me or anything like that. It's been just a video from him on his phone, shooting it selfie, like super low quality, but him just sharing a meal with his daughter or being in his restaurant, sharing his story. And it just makes people connect with that local business and make people want to support it, especially in a time like this, which we're recording this in 2020. So,
Right. Yeah, I think there's a lot more to unpack there, and I'm glad you kind of led us into the storytelling design side of things. I want to make sure I let Justin barge in as well, so you're not just the pretty face in the back. But you obviously gave an example there. And I was going to lead this off as well with saying it was in a book I read, which if you listen to the podcast, I highly recommend. I actually should probably look it up because I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's something along the lines of how to tell a story for your business. So I'll probably pull up my phone while Jared is talking. Actually, I'll get that for you. But in the book, the author gives 2 examples. She talks about Extra Gum a few years ago. If you remember that commercial where this couple was having these cute moments and the guy was writing little pictures on the gum wrappers of these memories they had, and then it led from high school love to marriage to, I think, a kid.
I remember that.
And people really connected with that. Yeah, because it wasn't a story about the company. It was just a connective story that everybody could relate to that was, specific and had a story to tell. Or the Budweiser story a few years ago of the puppy getting lost and then the horses running out and protecting it against some wolves or something like that. Classic Super Bowl.
Yep.
So all that to say, would love maybe if you have other examples you know of, and maybe this wider conversation of different stories a business can tell, and different ideas we can help business owners start to brainstorm what that looks like for them from a plumbing company to an e-commerce brand.
Yeah, I think it's classic to like look at those big brands and look at these stories that they're telling, and sometimes it is really interesting to see these big brands telling stories that really don't even connect to what their product is that they're selling or whatnot. But I think there is some truth to be held there, is that we don't always need to tell a story of what our product does, or what we don't need to always sell the product, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we can just tell the story or tell a story. I think of one of my favorite companies right now. I think you guys probably already know this because of what I always wear, but it's Carhartt. And Carhartt does a great job at showing some advertisements where people are just wearing their clothes but doing some awesome stuff in them. And I'm trying to think of his name. He's the really big dude from Game of Thrones, but
The Mountain?
No. Samoan.
I'm not a Game of Thrones fan. Sorry.
Okay.
Left you out in the
But anyways, super big dude. Like everybody knows him, and he's like this. And when you think of him, you're like, that's it. That's a crazy guy. And like, he's really cool. And so he like is in the advertisement and he's wearing a pair of Carhartt pants. And he's like, I don't go anywhere without my Carhartt pants. Yeah. And it shows him like throwing rocks, and it shows him building houses and like playing with his daughter as well, which is like super awesome. And you just watch that advertisement and you're like, well, now I need a pair of Carhartt pants, right? Gerber.
Because then you can get as big as the Samoan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You can be as awesome as him and feel that cool.
So you can throw those rocks too.
And if you're only listening today, which is really funny because I'm probably one of the skinniest, like unmuscular dudes, but I'm wearing Carhartt clothes because it makes me feel like I'm muscular, right? So another example, I think if you ever can, there's an advertisement by Gerber who makes pocket knives, and they have an awesome advertisement where they do the same thing where the guy uses his knife all the place and he always keeps it on his belt, and he's like, I will never go anywhere without my knife, which now I want to buy one of those knives. So
one of my favorite knives I have is a Gerber. Yeah.
Right. So I think that's just the power of storytelling, right? You can tell a story that isn't just selling your product, but shows people the life that they want to have, the group of people, the community that they want to be in. Whether you think that's ethical or not, it works, and it makes people want to be a part of those different communities and be a part of that story.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, I'm opening the floor up to you. I've been dominating the whole first 10 minutes here, so.
Okay.
Unless you're just soaking it up, you're like, keep going.
Yeah,
I guess maybe before, just a quick note so I don't forget, that random book I mentioned, because my memory's so phenomenal, is Stories That Stick by Kendra Hall. So, Kendra, if you're listening, you're welcome for the free shout out.
Yeah.
But highly recommend that book.
Need some affiliate links on here and stuff.
Highly recommend that book to especially business owners listening, because it breaks down so many different examples of stories you can tell, to your point, where you're not really trying to sell, you're just trying to show someone the experience and visually portray that. So with that being said, we'll sit back,
Nice.
let my co-host in here.
Yeah. I think one of the themes we've been kind of bringing through all of these podcasts we've done so far is a lot about that authenticity that comes out through, people trying to get their brand to relate to people. And I think that's some of what you're talking about in both photography and videography. Yeah. And you mentioned Paninos and what they're doing there, and the owner has done a fantastic job. But from your opinion, what is that healthy blend that someone can do? I mean, I think someone starting off, videography can be a pretty expensive thing to do, right? So starting off, what are the things that they can do just kind of internally? And then when is it time for them to kind of branch off and go, now I should hire somebody to get some, and what's the value of that? I also just kind of lead you into this of the fact that, I think most of the time catching good video is not necessarily the hard part. It can be, and you can do much better at it. But I would say that where you excel at and what really the storytelling comes down to is the editing side of it. So speak on that a little bit of like when should a business owner kind of think about starting, and when do they hire somebody, and what's the blend between those? And those are the only 3 questions I'll have
writing those down. I think that's a great question. I think we are living in this. It's really cool, honestly, but it's also kind of crazy of this age of where everybody has one of the best cameras we've ever had in our pockets every single day, right? That camera that is on your phone. It's a free camera. Well, I guess it's actually a pretty expensive camera. If we're looking like $1,000 camera that fits in your pocket is actually pretty expensive. But the fact that you have a camera on your phone is huge, and it's really good. And it scares me sometimes because I'm like, this is going to put me out of business one day. But you're getting at the exact point that I always try to sell to our clients is that, yes, you can shoot a great video. Yeah, you could, a big corporation could go out and spend $20,000 on video equipment in a studio or whatnot, but it doesn't matter unless you're able to tell that story. If we're going back to that, if you know how to tell that story and what a good story looks like, and then you're going back to like where creating that story actually happens is within the editing room, right? Yeah. So when I shoot a video, a lot of the times I'll walk into it with a really nice outline and like what I want it to look like and have a script behind it. And then sometimes I go and edit it and it like follows that sometimes, but there's also times we walk into a project and I'm like, I just want to capture as much as I can so that I can tell the story later in the editing room. So I'm forgetting all the questions that you asked now because I totally just went on a tangent, but
you're answering them within this tangent. Yeah.
Good. Once a business owner is thinking about shooting video and telling a story within their company, which is a great idea. Yeah. I think that's like a huge step in everybody's marketing to say, I need to tell a story and I need to prioritize this within my business because it is super important to build that brand. But once they're doing that, they can shoot videos on their phones. And I think that's a great starting place. I think it is much smarter to start with what you have, the equipment that you have, and get as good as you can at that equipment and then work your way up. So like thinking of my story and back where I bought the cheapest camera I could and then I pushed it to its limits. And found out like where those limits were. And then I was like, okay, I need more equipment to further my skills. And that is a great way. So many people will buy a super expensive camera and then never know how to use it. And that just makes me so sad sometimes. So for a business owner to do that is awesome. Just start with your phone, start with what you have and test it out and see what you can do. And then where another production company comes in and where business owners can look for outside help is when you have this great idea that you like think that you can't do on your own, that you think that you need help with, you think you have a story that is worth mentioning. that's when you bring in somebody like us and you say, I have this story and I really want to tell it, and I really want this to look great, and I want it to have the most impact that it can possibly have. And that's what we can offer. Like, we can do that as well as we possibly can. And because with a business owner by themselves, without knowing how to edit a video, without knowing how to use really nice equipment, they have a lot of limitations where they can't tell the full story that they're wanting to tell. So
yeah, I think that's good. And thank you for answering all 10 of my questions in one answer. So I do think, just thinking about that answer and from a business owner's perspective, one of the things is business owners are busy enough doing the rest of the things. So they may have ambition to, capture something on their phone once or twice, but it's really the consistency of it. And I think that's where, having a marketing company, similar to us, and there's many out there, but one that also focus a lot on the video production side of things, is a really big value, because we can we're constantly thinking about, what else can we get for new product photography, for new photography for your business, for new videos that we can put out. And the other thing that I see is so valuable for when people are thinking about the cost of this, because on paper, it can look very expensive.
Yeah.
But again, from your side of it, what would you say to a business owner that's going to shoot a video? Where's that value? I mean, they're getting a video that they can use for a pretty long time. I mean, unless something shifts in their business or they stop selling that product or whatever it is. And then what we see all the time is we go in to shoot one video, and what do we come out with? We come out with the opportunity, especially from the marketing side of it, to have a lot of different clips that we can edit down, that we can have 10 to 15 different, 30-second, 90-second clips.
Yep.
So kind of speak on that a little bit, of just like, business owner sees cost and goes, that's way too much for me. What's kind of that explanation as far as how far video can take them and what it can do for their business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in my profession and what I do, one of the saddest times, most sad, the saddest times that I have is like when I have a great idea or a client comes to me with an awesome idea, and we put together the outline, and then I give them the quote, and they're like, whoa, that was much bigger than I was expecting. And it varies, right?
Yeah,
like, we've had different projects where we've charged $100 for, and we've had projects where we've charged tens of thousands of dollars for. So it totally varies. And so, like, don't make it scare you away from it, just hearing that, but know that is one of the saddest moments, because I see that story and I see the potential there, and we like price it at that point because we see that potential in whatever you're wanting us to do. So because it has so much value, I think one of the biggest arguments for that is what you're kind of pointing on, is that once you make a video, once you take a bunch of pictures, you always have that. And like, of course, some of that stuff goes outdated. I think it's so funny when you go to a website, honestly, and they have a video on there that's probably from like the late 1900s or whatever, and it's like the super classic like editing and like the worst subtitles and whatnot, and it looks like Bill Nye the Science Guy was on there and he was editing whatnot.
I love that.
But but like those videos still work, honestly. Like, people still engage with them and like to see that story being told. But so there is a ton of value, and I think it totally varies. We have clients like we work with a local church right now, and we will shoot a video for them, and it'll be about an outreach mission that they're doing, and we'll go in and we'll be like, yeah, this is going to be kind of expensive, but we'll shoot it, say, for $1,000. Not actually saying real numbers here, but just shooting it out. And then we'll have stories that come back, and they'll be like, we received $16,000 in donations off of this one video because we showed it to our congregation, and it prompted them to give and be generous with what they're giving. So just really cool stories like that of like ROI on a video is so much higher. I think like would love to talk more to Matt about that, of like when we shoot a video, that is just our photography, that is just the base of your marketing plan, right? We can take that content and then use it different places. We can use it for ads. We can use it for the header on your website. We can use it for within your company. I think like one of the coolest things to use stories for is actually to show the staff of your company and to show the people of your company what you're doing for your clients, which is so powerful when your employees are able to see what you're actually doing for your clients. It motivates them to work harder for the purpose that they're doing, which is just a complete tangent that I just went on, but which is really cool.
You like tangents.
We're now going to morph this into a business development podcast and how to boost employee morale. So.
But it's so cool. I think that is just where the passion that I receive for, like, I think we should have counted how many times I say story or storytelling. Maybe we should have taken shots every time that we did it. It's a little early for that.
We'd be done in 20 minutes. So.
But yeah, I think that it is daunting to see the price tag on some video production that we may do, but there is so much value there because it is just the start of what I said is your marketing, because you can use it so many different places and see it used for a really long time, and then we can always change it and adapt it with editing if we need to, so that it's telling a different story. So.
I think it really takes the marketing to a whole different level, the storytelling to a whole different level. And I think, like a lot of things that have happened, mostly because of these devices we have right in our pockets that are great phones, great video, the tough part is that it's kind of a double-edged sword. It has given everybody the opportunity to take video, right? And so, like you said, that's kind of scary from your perspective sometimes, because you're like, is this going to put me out of business? But what it does is it floods the market with a bunch of amateurs who think they are putting good things out, which from an authentic standpoint can work really well. Yeah. But when you need to tell a story, now really to stand out above the rest is when you really want to look at having somebody that can professionally come in and talk to you about the story. How do we want this to look? And really then it comes down to the editing side of things.
Yeah, and you're making the great point of, like, if everybody's shooting video, then you need to stand out with really good video.
Yeah, right.
And so that's where we come in.
Yep, exactly.
There's even YouTube videos I've seen, good grammar in the morning, I've seen where the balance between the person talking and the music in the background is way off. And it's so hard to hear them that they lose me in the video and I bounce because it's just not professionally done. And some detail like that some people might not have the words for can probably feel internally or in their gut, like, this video is just hard to watch. It's hard to engage with. And to your point on the ads, you won't go, they already had Matt on here, so you won't go down the rabbit hole. But the fact that you talked about video ads, but again, for better or for worse, Facebook is tracking how long somebody watches a video for, versus if you get a stock image, it's kind of harder to tell how well people engage with it, versus you put a video out there and that people who watched, our normal metric is anywhere from 50 to 75% of the video, they're interested and they're engaged, and it's time to reach back out and put another video or another clip or whatever it is, because you have an audience that's interested. So it's, again, something you can leverage to really get an idea of how interested people are in the video. And then again, test that and say, okay, did this video not do well? What can we change up? What are my audience? How can I connect with them better? Because that's really, we're not trying to exploit anyone. We just want to help businesses connect people better with their product or service that, I would personally say, and I think for all of us would agree, we only want to partner with companies that are in it for the right reason. We want to partner with the best plumbers that are going to do the best work. We want to partner with an e-commerce product that actually is as good as it says, or whatever the selling point might be. So with that, and I think Justin was kind of getting here as well, but obviously we're recording this in December here of 2020. We're already looking at, a few months ago, we were already looking at 2021 with a global health crisis currently going on and everything like that. What are you foreseeing in 2021 in the video world, and what should people be expecting and preparing for, or any other foresight you have that can help people prepare or even start planning now for what needs to be done in 2021 and beyond, really?
That's a great question. It's really interesting.
Let's pause it, give you 5 minutes to chew.
Yeah.
All the things in 2021. No, I am super excited for 2021. I think as a career standpoint, like it is going to open up a lot of doors for me. I think like thinking of like even like we even do wedding videography. There's thinking of that simple example of the fact that it's really sad that a lot of people have put off their weddings and this year in 2020, and maybe going to have to put them off in the beginning of 2021. But eventually a lot of weddings are going to be happening, and a lot of people are like, it's going to be jammed packed with weddings and need for photographers and need for videographers and stuff like that. So even within businesses, I think even at the start of all of this, at the start of 2020, and when this was all happening, I got a little bit scared for myself of like, okay, the last thing that business owners are thinking of right now is making videos. And then we got into the whole world of where video is king and like where everything is happening over video and Zoom is happening, and like the opportunities that we've had to make really good live streams or make really good videos for things that can't happen in person no longer, like big seminars or big events that are happening. Like, I think it's really cool, the opportunities that we've had to work with clients of like now seeing this like tragic thing get canceled and then using that. And like, that has been some of this, like when I see a client or a business owner see that like intuition and being like, hey, let's just like use this opportunity to like shoot something on video but have a broader audience and sell it for free. Like sometimes these events were like you had to go into it for some kind of charge, but now they're for free. And so I think just reaching wider audience with that potential. So within 2021, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I think nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. Like, right, when is the vaccine going to happen? When is that all going to work out? And that'll be a big change for everything. But within video production, I think we predict that more and more people are going to be turning to video and turning to content online, and more people are learning online through video. More people are engaging with brands online because they can't in person. So I think it's just like making this new shift in people's attitudes and people's way that they do shopping and the way that they do engaging with brands and everything like that. So in video and photo and content creation and storytelling are going to be huge in that. And I think the smart, like, obviously I'm biased, but the smart business owner, if they want to excel in 2021, is going to be thinking forward to that and thinking about how things have changed forever. Yeah. Like everything's going to start to happen over Zoom still. Like none of that's going to change. There's a lot of things that are not going to change after all this is even over. So the smart business owner is going to realize that and say, okay, what can I do in 2021 that is going to be ahead of the game in this? And I think video production and photography is one of those. So.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. Like a lot of things that have happened because of the coronavirus and COVID and everything is, it's accelerated a lot of things digitally, right? So now all of a sudden e-commerce, where people were not necessarily comfortable purchasing online, kind of had to. And then they realized, it's not that hard, and it's actually really convenient.
Yeah, I bought my first pair of shoes online the other day, and I had to.
See? I figured that's the only place you bought your shoes for being the youngins in the room. So
no, I like to try them on.
but within that, it's a really good point, because now, I think one of the biggest challenges that we face when we go shoot stuff for clients, especially when it's like service-based or doing like testimonials or things like that, is they're uncomfortable in front of the camera.
Yep.
Now all of a sudden they've been in front of Zoom and whatever other platform that they're doing video conferencing, and so they've just naturally now become comfortable seeing themselves in camera and talking to people through that medium.
Yeah.
And so now all of a sudden we've accelerated that in a way that now people are maybe a little bit more authentic, a little more comfortable with it, and things work out a lot better.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of cool to think about a lot of those things that, like, yes, this was a terrible year and I wish we could change those things, but if you can just spin it and look at the positives of what has come from this, there's a ton of opportunity. You know, and that's what I think is what you were getting at, and what's awesome coming into 2021 with video is that that's what people are kind of expecting now.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're doing it, you better have something that at least matches or goes along with your iPhone video that you shoot in the store, to also something that looks a little more high quality.
Yeah.
So
I think that's one you pointed out, like something that I think is really interesting. And like I've been going to a few different clients recently, and never before would they mention like camera angles or like lighting or any of these different things that people are just kind of oblivious of before 2020. And now they're like, oh, when I'm on Zoom, I make sure that I do this for my lighting, or I have this angle or whatever. So people are becoming way more knowledgeable of those kind of things. So it'll be interesting to see how that moves forward, and like opens up a whole lot of new opportunities. So.
Right.
that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to steal one of Justin's brainstorming questions before we sat down, because I think it's for sure something I wanted to touch on. And as we're building this up and saying, hey, there's probably some business owners out there who need to start looking to outsource this and bring in professionals.
Yeah.
In your experience, because I think we've done this for a lot of the other experts we brought on from our team to talk about things, what are some of the questions that business owners can ask when they're sorting through options of production companies, whether it's photo or video, and telling a story that can help them really identify the company that's going to serve them best based on what they need to make sure they're professional, they're going to edit well, they care about the details, all the things that make a good video a good video?
Yeah. That's a great question, because there's a lot of options out there, right?
You can give Justin the credit for that one.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, if we're going back to the fact of like everybody can shoot a video now, it's really hard for business owners to look for people that are legitimate and not just some high schooler with the new camera that they got and like playing around with it. Like there is a lot of people shooting video nowadays, and so it's hard to find somebody that you can trust to shoot your stuff. So I think like some of the obvious things are like, obviously if they have a website that has a lot of good portfolio pieces and you watch it and you're like, this is the stuff that I connect with, and this is the stories that I like, this is the level of quality that I like, then that's a good indication, I think. But if you're going with somebody that has no portfolio, like doesn't have the pieces that you're looking for, like then it doesn't make sense. I think that a lot of the times big production companies you'll sometimes go to a big production company and they'll shoot you this whole pitch of this huge commercial or huge project that is really honestly maybe something that you don't need for this small business sometimes. So I think you need a company that is going to listen to you on exactly what you need. Sometimes we've gone into companies and they've pitched us this big idea and we're like, well, no, that actually won't work well for your brand because you're this super small company that it just doesn't really make sense to do that kind of advertisement for, or that kind of video. So you need a company that listens to you, understands what level of quality of video that you actually need, and is reputable through that. So yeah,
I think that's in those examples too, that comes back to the understanding that most people probably don't truly have a good idea of what the cost of videography. So those small business owners come to you with these grand ideas, and great. Some of them are beautiful, but then it's like you can just look them in the eyes and just say, look, that's it's going to be way too expensive for what I think you can work with on, so let's pull this back, and that may not even bring the value you need.
Yeah. And that's okay. You can just start small. You can start somewhere, and that's the best thing to do.
That's absolutely the point. Yeah, exactly. So, and really finding a company that's going to be honest with you about those things of, hey, we'd love to do that in 2 years when we grow this thing for you, but today let's do this thing that really fits your brand and works for where you are today.
Yeah.
for both the brand and the budget.
Right.
So
yeah, that is really well said. I agree, and I think hopefully people would see that in a production company that has the experience that they're interviewing and talking with, because there are, I think of a skincare brand we have whose unique selling point in their brand is not, high class, high quality. They actually don't want any pictures of their models or anyone else on their site with fake nails because it seems inauthentic. They're more about real ingredients, like raw ingredients from the earth. So those kind of things, and it doesn't fit. I'm just picturing a video. It wouldn't fit with like this super, high, sleek aesthetic. They're more of the personal, raw, materials for the brand. And so I think you need a company who's going to help walk you through that and be like, what you're envisioning doesn't quite seem like a good fit. Let's find a middle ground or how we can tell that story.
I think maybe this feels a little bit biased, but I think like the advantage that we have, and I think you can look for this other places as well, but like the fact that we have a production company that's connected to this marketing company Beyond Blue is a huge advantage for a lot of our clients, because we're able to bring both marketing and videography and production and understand the full picture of like what that client actually wants, because sometimes a production company will come in and have no idea what the client's marketing looks like and just go off of that, and then it just doesn't connect, and you want those pieces to be connecting perfectly and in sync. So
we're all about the shameless plugs here. I think we're kind of coming up on the close here. Are there any closing thoughts or any other pieces of advice? Or I think our constant theme has been weird analogies that people have made. I think we've gone from cakes to trees to I don't even know. So any closing thoughts or pieces of wisdom for any of the business owners out there like we maybe have missed or didn't dive into?
No analogies today, but I think I could think of some weird ones probably, but I don't think we need to go there. But I don't have any analogies, but no, I think that I think it can be daunting, right? I think within any, like we've talked about SEO, we've talked about ads, we've talked about social media marketing. Any of those things can be daunting, as well as video and photography production. But in the wise words of my calculus teacher in high school, that you just have to start. And what I mean by that is just start somewhere, right? Just start somewhere small, start anywhere on your marketing, on your video production, on your SEO, and build it, keep working on it. And I think that eventually it'll grow into something that you want it to be. And that's the advice I have.
Nice. I like that. So that's probably why I didn't do well in calculus.
I
didn't start.
Well, it was like a serious problem. I'd look at a calculus problem and I'd be like, I cannot do this. And then I'd look at it and she'd be like, just start. And as soon as you start, just little by little, you can figure out that calculus problem. And I think I use that on a lot of different things in life nowadays. So
I relate to that because I also was going to college as an engineer and did not end up going that path. So I didn't start.
Before we wrap up, I want to ask a couple of like, some podcasts do this and we've never done it, but like I only have 2, so it's really not that exciting, but like the rapid fire questions,
there you go.
Like the short answer. You know, is that all right?
Yeah, you have to answer within 5 seconds. Otherwise, we're gonna.
I think it'll be real. I think it'll be real easy. So okay. So if a picture is worth 1,000 words, what's a video worth?
1,000,000.
Nice. Okay. Good. I love it.
that felt too easy, but
Jared's like doing his math. He's like, how many frames per second are in the video, and then what's the total count? So that would be
the calculus behind
1,000 times 20,000.
Yeah, I didn't want to quite nerd out on that, but I could give it a whole explanation of why I think it's that way. But
I mean, can you do that in like 30 seconds or less?
I mean, if we're just connecting back to the story, like when a person tells a story, they tell as many details as they can. The person that tells the best stories are the people that can expand as much as they possibly can. They don't say Chris came to work. They say Chris got in the car and he turned on the engine and it warmed up slowly, and then he drove and he missed hitting a bird on the way, and he slowly drank his coffee on the way, and then he got here and he felt better.
Yeah, I like that. There's the podcast theme, how Chris gets to work.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So I love that because again, that's such everyone probably knows that phrase, right? That a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
Right? So when you then expand on that and talk about video and how much more powerful that is, I would agree. That would be the answer that I would say at least 1 million, if not 1 billion.
Sorry, I answered it wrong, I guess.
Okay, so, and then my next one is the last question I came up with yesterday that I like. So, do you consider yourself a video wizard or a video Jedi?
I would say a wizard. Well,
I like it.
Initially, when I think of a Jedi, I think of somebody that's pretty fast and like pretty aggressive. I don't know if that's right. I guess there's different Jedis though. There's
good.
like, who are we talking about? Like Yoda? Or are we talking about Skywalker? Or
that's great. No,
but when I think of
this all up for all the Jedis.
when I think of a wizard, I think of somebody that's super wise and thinks through it and plans it out and then executes. Right.
Okay.
So
I love that. Okay. I was going to ask why if you answered short, but you did it all in one. So thank you. Those are my two semi-rapid fire questions.
Well, I'm in love with that segment now, and we're for sure going to implement that moving forward.
Yes, all right.
Yeah, we're going to carve out 5 minutes at the end of every podcast for rapid fire session.
Yeah, awesome.
great.
Well, yeah, Jared, thank you so much for stepping out from behind the camera. We are obviously immensely grateful for what you do because we could not do it, and your expertise is much needed, especially for putting together this whole show. So thank you. I know there's probably plenty of pieces of value you got there today, so thank you so much for coming here, and we're excited to maybe have you back in the future sometime soon.
Oh, for sure.
Thanks.